before you find your dream house. We want to make sure that you can find a house in less than 10 properties, lot sizes and price ranges of all the different houses. And this is the exact same guide we use. So if you're watching this video, I assume you've narrowed down your search of where you want to live in central New Jersey and in Monmouth County to include Little Silver. It's great news, and what we're going to cover in this video is to give you a better idea of exactly what parts of town and specific complexes you might want to look at versus other ones. We'll go through what to expect from square footages, lot sizes, and price ranges of all the different houses in town. Now, I know you're going to want to start to see houses and go out there and search while you're watching this video, but before you do that, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button down below. Make sure you can come back and see this video if you get derailed and go start to look at houses in the middle of it. Now, before we get started, I want you to understand not all of these different neighborhoods are formal subdivisions. They're neighborhoods that we've come to title certain ways in helping clients over the last 17 years. If you're trying to find them online or on different search sites, you're probably not going to see them. And even if you talk to other realtors, they might not know them by this, but we're going to get into on a map of each of these different neighborhoods, exactly where they are. So you have a better feel for when you're looking online, exactly where we're talking about to be able to match those up. So let's get going. All right, let's cover our first complex, which is Carriage Gate. This is the newest condo complex in town. There's only about a dozen of these units, and they were built in 2016. They're all 3 bedrooms. They all have 2-car garages, and they're all newer open floor plans with higher ceilings. Now, the great thing about this is it's ideal for commuters. And the reason I say that is because it's located directly across the street from the Little Silver train station. So yeah, there's a little bit of noise, but it's also a bonus because you can wake up late, roll out of bed, go across the street, grab a coffee at Rook Coffee, which is inside the Little Silver train station, and then hop on the train to go to New York City if that's where you need to go. Now, also the reason I say it's for commuters is that there are not a lot of other amenities other than snow removal and trash removal. There's no pool, there's no tennis courts, so it's literally for young professionals or people who just don't have the need for a yard for kids and pets. Now, you're generally going to be spending around $700,000 to $900,000 for these units. They're mostly renovated again because they were only built in 2016, and it's a great place if you're not looking for a full single-family house to get started here in Little Silver. The next neighborhood we're going to talk about is called Alderbrook. This is the largest condo complex in town. There's a couple hundred townhouses in this complex, and it's located across the side street from Red Bank Regional High School, just south of Harding Road. Now, the cool thing about this is they're all 3 or 4 bedroom units, and they're townhouses, not condos. They also come with a 2-car garage, and unlike Carriage Gate, you do actually get a swimming pool and a tennis court and a bigger complex along with this one. They also take care of snow removal and garbage removal as well. Now, on the low end, you're talking about around $800,000 for the units that are a little bit less renovated. The whole complex was built in the 90s, so you do have a little bit of datedness to some of the units, all the way up to about $1.3 million on the highest, most renovated properties that are the largest units in there as well. And again, you're talking about somewhere between 2,200 square feet and about 3,000 square feet from the smallest to the largest. Another condo complex we're going to cover is called Little Silver Townhouses. And again, these are condos and townhouses. They're really close to where the train station is, only a block or so away from where Carriage Gate is. And these were built in the 70s, so they're a little bit older. What I love about this complex is it's a little bit more affordable, so you can get in here between $500,000 and $800,000, but also, yes, it's close to the train station, but you're the closest in town to Fort Monmouth's Riverwalk. Now, Fort Monmouth is where Netflix is building their new headquarters, but because of how close you are here, you are literally a short bike ride or a walk of a block or so, not just to get to Fort Monmouth, but to get to the Riverwalk section, which is the portion that's going to have the most retail, shopping, dining, gyms, things like that are really nearby. So this is one of the big bonuses of that development if you're looking for condo living. So let's talk about Cheshire Square. So Cheshire Square is an adult community or a 55 plus or an active adult, just depends on what you want to call it. But in essence, it's a condo complex that's age restricted to folks who are 55 years and older. Now, one of the things I love about this complex is it's literally located in downtown Little Silver. So you can walk or bike outside of this complex without needing a car at all to everything that's in downtown Little Silver. It was built in the 70s. There's about 50 units in here, and they go very quickly despite the fact that they're usually pretty dated. So when they come on the market, because it was built in the 70s, like a lot of these adult communities built around that time, they need substantial renovation. But even when they come on the market around $400,000 for an unrenovated unit, they go very quickly. If you're going to buy a renovated unit, they go all the way up into the high $600,000 range. But they're worth the investment because it's the only adult community in town right now. Now, the other thing to be aware of is that the utilities are only electric. There is no gas in the complex. So if you're a chef, might be something that tips you off that maybe this isn't the right fit for you. But also, just in general, your electric bills are going to be higher, your utility bills are going to be higher because they're all electric and there is no gas utilities in the complex. So what I call the downtown section of Little Silver are the streets that are just north and just west of downtown Little Silver itself. You're talking about streets like Lovett and Woodbine, Silverton, and Silverwhite. And there's some beautiful architecture in these houses. If you like classic New England architecture, this is definitely a spot of town to take a look at, especially if you don't need a really big piece of property. The parcels here are about 50 by 100. You're almost guaranteed you're not going to get a garage on most of these properties, and they run you somewhere from $650,000 for the older unrenovated saltbox colonials, all the way up to about $1.25, $1.35 million for the totally renovated ones that are on a larger piece of property. Now, you've got to like classic architecture, like I said, right? So you have the charm that comes along with these, like plaster walls and plaster moldings, and you get some of the character that comes along with these houses too, like you see in Red Bank with some sloped floors and some creaky doors. But if that's truly what you're looking for, this is a great part of town to look in. So let's talk about Rumson Place as a neighborhood. This is a section in the northwest portion of Little Silver. It's just south of Red Bank, south of White Road, and west of Branch Avenue. What I love about this neighborhood is that every single house in this part of town looks different. And if you take a stroll or a bike ride through here, it really feels like walking in a secret garden, because you have a ton of tree cover above you and you can take in all the differences and the care that was put into these different style of houses. My personal favorite as a lover of architecture are the English Tudors, and they've got leaded front glass windows and really steep slate roofs. One of our past clients and friends, Jan, actually bought a house in this neighborhood that was a complete teardown, and she gutted it and built one of the coolest modern houses anywhere within Monmouth County. And it's really neat when you go through this neighborhood to see that as a juxtaposition against some of the historical architecture there. Now, price range wise, you're going to run up against about $700,000 on the low end, all the way up to $1.5, $1.6 million for the larger lots with renovated houses in this section of town. And like I said, one of the neatest things about this is due to the tree cover that's above you, it really feels like you're walking around a secret garden when you're back here. Next on our list is Sunnycrest. Sunnycrest is a very, very similar neighborhood to the Rumson Place neighborhood, except you miss some of that architectural difference between the houses, and also you lack the tree cover above you. So it doesn't have that shady, quiet little feel to it that Rumson Place does. But there's about 100 houses in here. They're almost all exclusively either Cape Cods or salt boxes, 3 to 4 bedrooms, somewhere between 1,500 square feet and 2,200 square feet. And again, price-wise, you can be in here a little bit less expensively too. It's between about $600,000 on the low end, and the renovated properties are going to be up around $900,000. Again, smaller pieces of property, so roughly a 50 by 100 to a 50 by 150 lot. Fox Hill is a neighborhood in town that most people don't even know exists, and it's a small little enclave of houses up at the top of Fox Hill Drive and Hilltop. Now, that's off Branch Avenue, and like I said, there's only about a dozen houses in here. Most of them are rebuilt 5,000 to 8,000 square foot gorgeous seashore colonials that have open floor plans and higher ceilings, and you're going to be looking at about $3 to $5 million for those houses if and when they come up on the market. But the real gem, if you get a chance to see it, is the completely rebuilt historical property up at the top of Hilltop Drive, which is a Georgian mansion. You get a chance to see this, which is a little bit easier to see in wintertime once the foliage is down. You absolutely have to drive up there and take a look at it. If you're looking for a prototypical 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath colonial that was built in the 70s or the 80s, like so much of suburban New Jersey, Kings and Queens, this section of Little Silver is the part you should definitely be looking in. This is south of Church Road, east of downtown, between Church and Little Silver Point Road. It's about 100 houses in this section of town, and they're mostly colonials and split levels. They're about 1/4 of an acre to 1/3 of an acre, and an unrenovated house there is going to run you probably between $700,000 and $900,000. Now, if you get a renovated house there, you're going to be looking more like 1.2 to 1.4 million. But we've started to see a lot more of these houses getting torn down as they haven't been renovated, and if it's a split level, builders start to make a decision on whether it's worth even working with a split level or just tearing it to the ground and building something new. If you're going to buy one of those new houses, it's a lot more common to be in the price range of about $1.7 to $2.5 million. Now, there are some larger lots in here with bigger houses that are up to 4,500 and 5,500 square feet, but those are fewer and farther in between, and they're going to cost you more like $4 million. Winding Way is one of my favorite streets, not just in Little Silver, but in the whole eastern part of the county. What I love about this is it's a really cohesive street, but it's really quiet and protected too. So you have to drive down Lippincott to even get to it. It used to be capes and ranches on this street, but after Sandy, basically a builder came in and bought the majority of the street, knocked everything down, and rebuilt about 20 new construction 9-foot ceiling seashore colonials. And it has this great vibe as you drive down the street because everything looks very similar. There are some of those ranches and capes still there. You're going to be spending around $1 million just to buy that, to knock it down and rebuild. Those newer houses that have been built are very rare that they come to the market, and when they do, they're going to fetch somewhere between 1.7 and 2.2 million. But the great part about this part of town, like I said, is that you're only about 2 blocks from the school, about a block from the river, and a quiet, really nestled in area of town. Now, of note is these houses don't have basements here, which is like most of the properties in Little Silver as you get closer to the river, just because of the water table. So if you're looking for a house that has a basement, Little Silver may not be one of your first choices, but what a lot of these houses do is they build frogs, which is family room over garage. So you get this sort of attic space that there's no risk of flooding because it's all the way up on the top of the house or on the second second floor over the garage. Silverside is a cut-through street that runs between Seven Bridges Road and Branch Avenue over to get to the train station, so it does have a lot of traffic on it. Now, just north of Silverside is a quiet suburban neighborhood that's a lot more like Kings and Queens. You've got about $700 to $1 million typical 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath colonials there. South of Silverside is a totally different story. Between Silverside and the river, you have some basic houses that either back to the water or don't, but you have some real hidden gems here too. You've got Tudors, you've got some old Victorians that were the original estate homes here that owned all of this property before it was subdivided to make room for smaller houses. Non-waterfront houses here are going to go between $1.5 and about $2.2 million. Waterfront houses can easily go up to $4 million, but the reason why these waterfront homes don't sell for as much as homes, let's say Point Road or Pog Lane, is because you're closer to the train and the train station here. So the waterfront properties that back up to the river are going to be looking at or at least hear that train coming, and that does take some of the value down of these properties. It's also important to note, if you're a boater, that yes, you can still get out under the Seven Bridges Road with your boat, but if you're a sailor, you don't have enough clearance there to actually clear a sailboat mast underneath the bridge. So you might want to look on a different street that has waterfront access here in town. As you're driving out of downtown Little Silver, you're going to run into Rumson Road heading east towards Fairhaven and Rumson. And there's a couple streets that you're going to run up against before you leave town that you might not even know are Little Silver. They're Mitchell, Vista, and Oaks Road. And they feel a lot more like Rumson than they do actually like Little Silver. You're dealing with lots that are about a half an acre up to about 3 or 4 acres for the biggest pieces of property. And there's some older ranches, but you also have some beautiful big estates that are much like the estate section or the riverfront section of Rumson. Now, for the older homes, the ranches, and some of the older split levels that are there, you're still going to be paying about $1.5 million for those because of the sizes of the piece of property. But for the renovated, bigger estates, you're easily in the $2 to $4 million range, especially if they're the bigger homes that are on the water. So if you're thinking about buying waterfront, you absolutely have to stop at Little Silver Point Road and Pog Lane. So Little Silver Point Road, or Point Road as it's commonly known, is one of those majestic streets like up in Connecticut or Rhode Island along the waterfront. It has some of the most classic New England style architecture that you're going to find anywhere here in New Jersey. Now, they're dealing with larger pieces of property too, so the acreage here is usually about 1 acre to 4 acres, and the houses are going to cost you anywhere from $1.5 million on the low end, which is really a teardown, all the way up to about $7 million. Almost all of these houses are going to be waterfront, again on the north side or south side of Little Silver Point Road, and Pog Lane's a big horseshoe street that a lot of them are waterfront as well. You do have some houses that were rebuilt here after Sandy because this section took a brunt of that storm, because Sandy came in from the east, so a lot of these east facing, no blocking the storm that came in on the river. Those houses took a lot of the brunt of the wind and the rain, plus you had a high tide and you had the storm surge. As you're going and looking at these properties, understanding which of them were affected by Sandy and what the flood zone risks are is really important. Even if you're not in the price range to buy these houses, if you're going to be in the area, it's absolutely worth a drive down these 2 streets because you're going to find some of the most beautiful waterfront architecture anywhere in New Jersey. It's very common for people who are looking in Little Silver to also look in towns like Red Bank, Shrewsbury, and either Fairhaven on the east side or Tinton Falls on the west side. So make sure that you check out our other videos about those towns here on the channel. Now that you're a Little Silver property expert, make sure to download our Dream Home Buyer Checklist, which is down below in the description. There's a link for it. This is the exact same resource we use to help our clients figure out their needs and their wants and the things they don't want and don't need to make sure that you don't have to tour more than 10 properties before you find your dream house. I appreciate you watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one.